Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're partnering up with Safety One Source to really kind of dig into this pretty important topic for all of us, in the safety world.
Yeah.
And that is how OSHA views employee involvement when it comes to safety record keeping.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of different sources here. We've got some official OSHA documents, and we've got this really helpful video from Safety One Source that kind of helps us break this down a little bit. So,
absolutely.
Are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
I am too.
This is important stuff for safety professionals.
Yeah.
And it's more nuanced than you might think.
Oh, I bet. Let's start with the basics here.
Sure.
What does OSHA actually say about how employees should be involved in reporting incidents in the workplace?
Well, OSHA is very clear that employers need a system in place that encourages employees to report work-related injuries and illnesses. Not just report them, but report them quickly and accurately. But the key here is that this system has to be reasonable.
Okay, reasonable. That's an interesting word choice.
Right.
What does OSHA consider reasonable when it comes to these reporting procedures?
Well, think about it this way. If the system is so complicated or intimidating that people avoid reporting incidents altogether, then that's not reasonable.
Yeah.
Imagine having to fill out a 10-page form for every little cut.
Right.
Or requiring a doctor's visit for a minor sprain.
Yeah.
That's going to discourage people from reporting, right?
Absolutely. It would create a huge barrier.
Yeah.
Especially when time is of the essence.
Exactly. And that's why OSHA is so specific about what employers need to do.
Okay.
They have to explain the reporting procedure clearly to every employee, how to report, who to report to, and what information needs to be included.
Yeah.
There should be no ambiguity there.
So it sounds like clear, straightforward communication is a crucial factor here.
Yeah, and that emphasis on communication extends to employee rights as well.
Okay.
OSHA is really big on making sure employees understand their rights when it comes to reporting.
Now, this is where I think things get really interesting. We all know that safety is paramount.
Sure.
But what are the specific rights that OSHA outlines for employees in this context?
Well, the biggest one is that employees have the right to report any work-related injury or illness, no matter how small it might seem.
Okay. I can see how that could be a sticking point.
Yeah.
Sometimes people might brush off a minor incident, thinking it's not worth reporting or...
You'd be surprised how often that happens.
Yeah.
But OSHA wants to eliminate any hesitation.
Yeah.
They require employers to inform every single employee about this, right? And here's the kicker.
Yeah.
It's illegal for employers to retaliate against an employee for reporting an injury or illness.
Wow, so there's real legal weight behind this.
Oh, yeah.
No firing, no demoting, or even...
None whatsoever.
...giving someone a hard time because they filed a report.
OSHA takes retaliation extremely seriously.
Yeah.
It undermines the whole system and creates a climate of fear, which is the opposite of what we want in a safe work environment.
That makes a lot of sense. It levels the playing field and ensures that everyone feels safe coming forward.
Absolutely.
Regardless of their position or the severity of the incident.
Exactly. And when employees feel safe reporting, we get a more accurate picture of what's happening in the workplace, which is essential for identifying hazards and preventing future incidents.
Okay. So we've talked about the reporting procedures and employee rights. Now let's get into the records themselves.
Okay.
Do employees have a right to access these safety records? I imagine that could be sensitive information.
They absolutely do have a right to access certain records.
Right.
OSHA is very specific about this. Employees, former employees, their representatives, and even legal representatives have the right to see these records.
So we're not just talking about the employee involved in a specific incident, but potentially a wider group of people who can access these records.
Transparency is key here.
Okay.
OSHA wants to make sure that information is accessible to those who need it.
That makes sense. But which records are we talking about specifically?
The main ones are the OSHA 300 log, which is a summary of all recordable injuries and illnesses, and the OSHA 301 incident report.
Got it.
The 301 goes into more detail about a specific case, the who, what, when, where, and how of the incident.
Got it. So employers can't just sweep these reports under the rug.
Nope.
What about time frames? How quickly does an employer have to provide these records?
Well, OSHA lays out specific timelines for this.
Okay.
If someone requests a copy of the 300 log, the employer needs to hand it over by the end of the next business day.
Got it.
For a 301 incident report, it's also the next business day for individual requests, but authorized employee representatives get a bit longer, 7 calendar days.
Interesting. So there's a distinction between an individual employee requesting their own report.
That's correct.
Versus a representative requesting information.
Right.
Are there any limitations on what information the employer has to provide? Can they redact anything from these reports?
Good question.
Yeah.
There are some specifics about that.
Okay.
For the 300, log employee names can't be removed unless it's a privacy concern case, which OSHA defines very clearly.
Right.
But if an authorized representative requests a 301 incident report, everything except the narrative description of the incident has to be removed.
Right.
That's to protect sensitive personal information that might not be relevant to the representative's role.
That makes sense. You wouldn't want medical details.
Exactly.
Or other personal information being shared unnecessarily.
Right.
So we've covered reporting procedures, employee rights, access to records.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
And there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to address the cost of obtaining these records.
Yes. This is probably a question that a lot of safety professionals have encountered.
Right.
Can employers charge for copies of these reports?
It's a valid question, and OSHA has a clear answer.
Oh.
The first set of copies is always free.
Okay.
But if someone requests additional copies, the employer can charge a reasonable fee for the time and effort it takes to retrieve and copy the records.
Okay, that seems fair. It strikes a balance between transparency
and
acknowledging that there are administrative costs involved.
It's all about finding that sweet spot where information is readily available,
right,
but the system isn't being abused.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've covered a lot of ground just on the basics of OSHA's take on employee involvement.
And we're just getting started.
Okay.
The real meat of this discussion is how all of this ties into creating a strong safety culture within an organization.
That's what I'm really excited to dig into. And one thing to know the rules, but it's another thing entirely to understand how to apply those rules in a way that truly fosters a culture of safety.
Couldn't agree more.
And empowers employees.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
And that's where we're headed next. So we've really dug into the nuts and bolts of OSHA's requirements for employee involvement in safety record keeping.
Yeah, we've covered reporting procedures, employee rights, access to records, even the nitty-gritty of charging for copies.
Right. But all of that is really just the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
What's fascinating to me is how these regulations connect to the bigger picture of building a truly strong safety culture.
That's what I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in compliance.
Right.
But how do we move beyond checking boxes and create a workplace where safety is truly ingrained in everything we do?
That's the million-dollar question. And I think it starts with leadership.
Okay.
Management can't just talk the talk. They have to walk the walk when it comes to safety.
So leading by example, making it clear that safety is a top priority in every decision.
Absolutely. And that commitment to safety needs to be visible at every level of the organization.
Okay.
Employees need to see that management is taking this seriously, not just paying lip service to it.
But it's more than just management, right?
Right.
We talked earlier about how important it is for employees to feel comfortable reporting incidents without fear of blame.
Mm-hmm.
How do we actually create that kind of trust in a practical sense?
Well, it's about fostering a culture where mistakes are seen as opportunities to learn and improve, not as reasons to punish.
Yeah.
When something goes wrong, the focus needs to be on understanding why it happened and how to prevent it from happening again, not on pointing fingers.
So shifting from a whodunit mentality to a how can we do better mentality.
Exactly. And that requires a real willingness to listen to employees, to value their insights, and to involve them in the process of developing and improving safety procedures.
That makes a lot of sense when people feel like they're part of the solution.
Right.
They're more likely to buy into it and take ownership.
Absolutely. And that's where those OSHA guidelines we discussed earlier come full circle. When employees know their rights, when they have easy access to information, and when they feel confident that their voices will be heard, it creates a much more positive and proactive safety culture.
So it's all connected, encouraging reporting, protecting employee rights, providing access to records.
Yep.
It all feeds into that bigger goal of creating a workplace where everyone feels empowered to prioritize safety.
Precisely. It's not just about following the letter of the law.
Right.
It's about creating an environment where safety is a shared value, a collective responsibility.
Now that brings us back to our sponsor for this episode, Safety One Source.
Yes.
They offer a fantastic suite of resources for safety professionals, from training programs to tools to those really informative videos we mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Those videos are a great example of how to break down complex OSHA regulations into bite-sized pieces that are easy to understand and apply.
Right.
I highly recommend checking them out.
Definitely. Safety One Source is a great resource for anyone looking to up their safety game.
Absolutely.
But let's dive back into this idea of safety culture. We've talked about the importance of leadership, open communication, and employee involvement.
Right.
What are some other key elements that contribute to building a strong safety culture?
Well, hazard recognition and control is a big one.
Okay.
Employees need to be trained to not only identify potential hazards in their work environment, but also to understand the procedures for controlling those hazards.
Right.
We can have all the safety rules in the world, but if people aren't equipped to spot potential problems and know how to address them, it's all for naught.
That's such a crucial point. It's about empowering people to be proactive.
Exactly.
Not just reactive.
And it goes beyond just recognizing obvious hazards. It's about creating a mindset where everyone is constantly looking for ways to improve safety, even in areas that might seem relatively low risk.
So always being vigilant, always thinking one step ahead, and never getting complacent.
Exactly. And that requires ongoing training and education.
Well,
safety procedures can change. New equipment can be introduced.
Right.
Work environments can evolve.
Yeah.
It's vital to keep everyone up to date and provide regular refreshers on safety protocols.
Makes sense. You can't just have one safety training session and call it a day.
Right.
It needs to be a continuous process of reinforcement and learning.
Right. And it's important to tailor that training to the specific needs of the workforce.
Okay.
Different industries, job roles, and work environments have different risks and require different approaches.
Right.
You wouldn't give the same safety training to an office worker as you would to a construction worker, for example.
That's a great point. A one-size-fits-all approach just won't cut it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this circles back to another key element we discussed earlier, effective communication. It's not enough to just provide training. You need to make sure that information is being communicated clearly and concisely.
Right.
And that employees understand how it applies to their specific roles and responsibilities.
So clear, concise, and relevant communication is key.
Yes.
No jargon-filled manuals that nobody reads.
Right. And communication needs to be a two-way street.
Okay.
Employees need to feel comfortable asking questions, raising concerns, and offering suggestions.
Yeah.
Without fear of being dismissed or reprimanded.
So open dialogue feedback loops.
Yeah.
And making sure that employees feel heard and valued.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture where safety isn't just a top-down directive, but a collaborative effort, a true partnership between management and employees.
I love that.
Yeah.
It really highlights how important it is to move beyond a purely compliance-driven approach to safety.
Absolutely.
And to focus on building a culture where safety is truly integrated into every aspect of the organization.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that building a strong safety culture is an investment, not an expense.
Okay.
When employees feel safe and valued, they're more productive, more engaged,
Right.
and less likely to experience injuries or illnesses.
So it's a win-win for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
Now, before we move on, I want to touch on one more aspect of safety culture that I think is particularly relevant to our discussion today, the role of technology.
That's a great point. Technology is playing an increasingly important role in safety management.
Yeah.
From online training platforms to mobile apps that allow for real-time hazard reporting. Technology is providing new tools and resources to enhance safety programs.
It's amazing how much technology has changed the game in recent years.
It really has.
But I'm curious, how do you see technology impacting this specific area of employee involvement in safety record keeping?
That's a fascinating question, and I think it's an area where we're going to see a lot of innovation in the coming years. Imagine systems that allow employees to easily report incidents from their smartphones, track their own safety training records, and access relevant safety information in real time, all at their fingertips.
That sounds incredible. It would streamline the reporting process.
It would.
And make it so much easier for employees to stay engaged and informed.
Right, and it would also provide employers with valuable data and insights that could be used to identify trends, track progress, and continuously improve safety programs.
Right.
It's about using technology to empower both employees and employers.
I love that idea, using data to drive positive change and create a more proactive safety culture.
Exactly. But even with all the advancements in technology, it's crucial to remember that technology is just a tool. It's a means to an end.
So the human element is still paramount.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't lose sight of the human aspect of safety.
Right.
We still need strong leadership, effective communication, and a genuine commitment to safety from everyone in the organization.
It's about finding that balance between leveraging the power of technology and nurturing the human connections that are so essential to building a strong safety culture.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And remember, building a strong safety culture is a journey, not a destination. It's an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and striving for continuous improvement.
This has been such a rich and insightful conversation. We've covered a lot of ground, from the fundamentals of OSHA compliance to the broader principles of building a strong safety culture.
It's been a pleasure exploring these important topics with you.
And I'm sure our listeners have gained a lot of valuable insights as well. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our audience with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the how of safety, the procedures, the training, the technology, but ultimately it all comes down to the why.
I couldn't agree more.
Why do we care about safety? Why is it worth investing the time, effort, and resources to build a strong safety culture? What's the driving force behind it all?
At its core, it's about protecting people. It's about making sure that everyone goes home safe and sound at the end of the day. It's about creating a work environment where everyone feels valued, protected, and empowered to prioritize their well-being.
That's it. That's the heart of it all. It's about valuing human life and creating a workplace where everyone feels cared for and protected.
Beautifully said. And that's a powerful message to carry with us as we continue on our safety journey.
And with that powerful reminder, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. And a special thanks to Safety One Source for sponsoring this episode and providing such valuable resources to the safety community.
Their commitment to safety education is truly commendable.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Until next time, stay safe.
So we spent a lot of time talking about this culture of safety, but,
what does that actually look like in action? How do we take all of these great ideas and, actually put them to work and make them a reality in the workplace?
It's a great question. And, it's one thing to talk about concepts, but it's another thing to actually implement them in a way that really makes a difference. And one powerful approach is to think about safety as a core value, not just a set of rules to follow.
Okay, I like that. So it's about kind of weaving safety into the very fabric of the organization.
Exactly.
Making it part of the DNA of how we do things.
It's about moving beyond that checklist mentality and fostering a mindset where safety is truly everyone's responsibility all the time. It's not something we just tack on at the end. It's integral to everything we do.
That makes sense, but it also sounds like a really big cultural shift.
It is.
How do you actually make that happen? How do you go from a culture of just compliance to a culture of, genuine commitment?
Well, it all starts with communication. We've talked about this throughout our discussion, but it's worth emphasizing again. Open, honest, two-way communication is the foundation of a strong safety culture.
So creating a space where employees feel safe, speaking up, sharing their concerns, offering suggestions without fear of reprisal.
Precisely. And it's not just about passively listening to employee concerns. It's about actively seeking out their input and perspectives.
I can see how that would be really powerful.
Yeah.
When people feel like their voices are heard and their opinions are valued, they're much more likely to be invested in the outcome.
And that's where employee involvement in safety record keeping can really shine.
Okay.
When employees are actively involved in tracking incidents, analyzing trends, and identifying areas for improvement, it creates a sense of ownership and accountability.
So it's not just about reporting incidents, but about using that data to drive positive change.
Exactly. It's about turning data into action.
Okay.
And this is another area where technology can play a huge role.
We've talked a lot about the role of technology in safety management. But how can technology be used specifically to facilitate employee involvement in record keeping?
There are so many possibilities.
Yeah.
Imagine user-friendly mobile apps that allow employees to easily report incidents from their smartphones, track their own safety training records, and even access relevant safety procedures right then and there.
That would be amazing. It would remove so many barriers and make it so much easier for employees to stay engaged and informed.
And these systems can also collect valuable data that can be analyzed to identify trends, pinpoint areas of concern, and develop targeted interventions.
So it's about using technology to empower employees.
Exactly.
And to drive continuous improvement.
Precisely. But as powerful as technology can be, it's important to remember that it's only one piece of the puzzle.
Right. We can't forget about the human element.
Absolutely. Technology is a tool, but it's the people who make it work. We still need strong leadership, effective communication, and that genuine commitment to safety from everyone in the organization.
It's about striking that balance between leveraging the power of technology and nurturing the human connections that are so essential to building that strong safety culture.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And at the end of the day, it's important to remember that building a strong safety culture is a journey, not a destination. It's an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and constantly striving to improve.
This has been such an inspiring conversation.
It has.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this incredibly important topic.
There's always more to learn and explore.
Oh, yeah.
But hopefully this deep dive has provided some valuable insights and practical tips for safety professionals who are looking to enhance their programs and create a truly safe and thriving workplace.
Absolutely. And a huge thank you to Safety One Source for partnering with us on this episode and for providing such valuable resources to the safety community.
Their dedication to safety education is truly commendable.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative and inspiring. Until next time, stay safe.